Well, hello. This is Dean Tenney. I'm coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. We have been very blessed over the last 7 months when I started the YouTube channel. Uh, the point of the YouTube channel was to build a direct connection with test takers on FINRA NASA. And I'm coming to you from the end of August, and we've had 70,000 views and over 1,000 subscribers, and have come to an interesting point. We have people matriculating from their SIE 766, and now they're going to their supervisory level and going to be taking a series or 9 and 10. So I've had a couple of requests to add some content on 9 and 10 onto the channel. I'm going to do so. We have been fortunate that over the years, I have helped a lot of people do their series 9 and 10. And I think a big result, or one of the big reasons we've had such great results, is those people knowing that they can refer their test taking candidates to the channel and get some help, lecture support for those FINRA exams. So I appreciate all the referrals from existing 9s and 10s and 4s and 53s that I've helped over the years, and for their referrals. And hopefully you test takers taking your 9 and 10 will do the same. I'm dating myself, but you can show that you know some old school. This used to be called a Series 8. And when it was a Series 8, I used to tell people the way to get the best deal on a Series 8 was to sign up for the 4-day class, because we would have the first 2 days would be 24s and 8s, and then the third day would be 53s and 8s, and the last day would be 4 and 8s, as you could get done. And then what would happen if you failed the exam, then you would retake whatever part you missed. So what I'm going to do tonight is what we always do in terms of opening up a playlist. I'm going to start the playlist with a header about to pass your exam, know your exam. So we'll talk a little bit about the exam itself. And then the way we proceed with, before we do narrative lectures on a topic, is to kind of explicate the content outline. And I'll make our first down payment on that as well. So that's kind of the game plan for the introduction to the 9 and 10 today. All right, eligibility. So you guys are fortunate. In the old days, I told you it was an 8, and you actually had to wait 2 years. You had to be OJT kind of with a Series 7 for 2 years before you could take the 8, which became the 9 and 10. And you were a branch office manager of a New York Stock Exchange firm. And that is no longer the case, right? So this is, I call it, babysitting 7s. The main thing here is supervision, right? So that's what's going to be going on with this thing. Your exam itself is based on critical functions. So the test writing committee gets together and they agree there's critical functions to being a general security sales supervisor. And here are the job functions. Please note the key word is supervision. So Supervise, associated person and personnel management activities is 28. I call them performance opportunities. Test questions, what I call performance opportunities. Function 2, supervising and opening on maintenance of customer accounts, 49 questions. Critical function 3, sales practice, general trading, 52 questions. And that final function is communications with the public. So please note the smallest components are going to be, communications with the public, function 4, and function 1, even though it's still 28 performance opportunities, not to be taken lightly. Anyways, in the Series 9, again, is based on critical functions. And please note, keyword is supervision. So now it's supervise the opening and maintenance of option accounts. Again, those requirements are different. Supervise sales practices and general options trading activities, like capping and pegging, which are unique and come up on supervision of options trading, as well as the garden variety, like front running, that kind of stuff. Option communication is only 5 questions, so pretty light. And then critical function 4, supervising associated persons and personnel management activities, 13 questions. So as you see here, administration of the exam. Let me get out my annotation tool here. You're going to get 15 additional questions that are experimental in nature. They're testing them for validity. So when you see questions that nobody's ever talked about before, you go, gee, what's that all about? Those are being tested for validity. Now in the Series 9, that's only going to be 5 pretest items. I call the pretest items experimental questions that they're testing for validity. And so that means on your Series 9, you're going to end up having 60 items, 55 or which are scored. So, it's the same idea as some of these other exams you've actually taken before, right? And then on the series, on the Series 10, as you see here on the Series 10, let me get my annotation tool again. On the Series 10, you're going to get 10 of these experimental items. Those are the unscored items that they're testing out for validity. And that will bring your total from 145 up to 155 in terms of that. Remember, the 5 of those are going to be scored. Now, you shouldn't have any kind of a time constraint. You shouldn't have any time constraint because, as you see here, you got plenty of opportunity to get that. The 9, you're going to get an hour and 30 minutes. And on the 10, you're going to get 4 hours to complete the 10. So I always joke, you're not going to run out of time. You might run out of right answers, but you're not going to run out of time. So, and you can always make sure you're not going to run out of time by, again, doing enough practice finals that you kind of get a sense of what that looks like or feels like in using your brain. The exam is scored. I joke that 70%, if you made a bad supervisory call 3 out of 10 times, in the real world, we might have some troubles, but it's minimum competency. So you're going to need 70%. As I said in the old days, you had to pass. It was a Series 8, and now you'd fail the 8 and you'd go back and you'd have to wait. And so, just finally we said, that's silly, and they broke it off. And so now it's a 9, 10, and you miss one, then you go back. Equating just like the 7, it just means more people are going to pass. They're going to round up your scores. All right. Well, I told you what we would do tonight or today is make a down payment on explication and what that'll look like. And then what I'll do is I'll wait to see if I hear from any 9s and 10s about proceeding with this thing in terms of going to the next 1.2. So I'm going to make a down payment here with 1.1. If you're just joining the channel from Google or somewhere and you haven't been with me for your SIE, your 7, your 66, this is what we mean by exploitation. It's not a narrative lecture. We do narrative lectures too, but we're going to have this. So one thing that's going to be on the U4 that's testable is their 10-year employment history. That's our first kind of thing we get tested on. On the U4, we ask our would-be associated persons to fill out, and then we're going to verify that 3 years verification on that, on the 10-year employment history. And we're going to want 5 years residency on that. And then you remember on that U4, there are some reasons for statutory disqualification. One would be, you make a false application, and that means on the U4, one of your associated persons checks something no. And it should have been checked yes. Now, it's not a test term, but in the industry, we say that somebody can fill out a U4 and answer everything no is a clean U4. And then somebody who has yes answer is not a test term, it's an industry term, it's a dirty U4. And there's some answers that are dirtier than others. What I mean by that is the things I'm talking about right now are reasons for statutory disqualification, meaning they can, the regulators can say, you're being disqualified and we don't have to tell you why, right? So these are reasons for statutory disqualification. Other ones, you check yes, they could deny a registration, but they would have to have some reason for that. Another one would be conviction of a felony within the last 10 years. Or a misdemeanor involving money and or securities. And have you ever been denied, suspended, or revoked a registration in the past? I call this the don't we know you from somewhere rule. let's be clear. My friend didn't steal anything, but the broker he was supervising did, and he had a 2-year suspension for failure to supervise. His 2-year suspension was over, and he said, Dean, I'm not sure how radioactive I still am, and I'm wondering if you'll file a U4 for me, through my firm. I had a firm at the time. And I said, yeah. And boy, I said, boy, you are still radioactive. Anyways, if they let you in, you're going to have a kind of I've seen people who have a yes answer still get it. And my friend, we're going to get him back in the business, but he's going to have to be, if assuming we can get this done, we were able to get it done. He's going to be under heightened supervision, and we're going to have to pay a $1,500 fee for that. That would be somebody that we're still able to get through this process, even though they had one of these yes answers. But in general, most firms would probably just say, forget it. We're not going to, put our firm at risk by hiring these things. Any amendment to the U4 are very testable. So anything that was a no answer that becomes a yes answer, those amendments have to be made within 30 days. U5. So, U4 is associate with the broker dealer. U5 is to disassociate from the broker dealer. And, we're going to file that U4 within, let me get a different color. I like to put a different color to distinguish my comments between the actual official document that we're doing. Let's see, I'll give it one more try here if I can't get my red thing going. There we go. We file that within 30 days. And to make sure everybody's on the same page, we're going to give a rep a copy of that. So the terminated disassociated person gets a copy to the R. I don't know why I did that. Copy to the former, I'll put it in test lingo, the former associated person. So we make sure we're all in the same copy. Then remember what happens once we've, filed the U5. If they don't re-affiliate within 2 years, they lose their registration. And again, sometimes, there's funky language, and the funky language that sometimes regulators use for this is they retain jurisdictional retention. So you're not really out of the business for 2 years. Jurisdictional retention. Boom. And here, remember, my buddy says, oh, Dean, please, don't file that on me because, I don't have to take these tests again. And so very much a violation. We have no parking of registration. So, if somebody's parking is not, it's a bad word. And I've actually had people use that and not know that that's actually a bad thing. Right? So you should not be using that word. I had somebody who had their own word, they called it shelving, but it's still a violation, right? It's still a violation. Anyways, let's see what else we got here. Our CRD, the Central Registration Depository, is where all this information resides. Statutory disqualification, we talked about. Fingerprinting, all U4s are accompanied with a fingerprint card. And sometimes people fill out U4s and aren't actually going to take the test, but let me do this. Somebody's involved in accounting or fiscal responsibility, back office, they may not, well, now they would because of the SIE, but mainly what we're just saying is every U4 is accompanied with a fingerprint card. That. Okay. So supervision, let's see if we have anything down here. We've talked about most of that stuff. Notification, we've talked about that. Statutory disqualification, we've talked about that. One last thing here, and I don't see it. And maybe it'll be in our next one. But remember, once we are registered, a person is registered. By the way, this will be reset for you. Continuing ed. Continue. Well, come on. I give him my red pen. I'll do this one more time. I'm going to give up. There we go. So continued, as you recall, is within 120 days of your second year anniversary, and then every 3 years thereafter. Within 120 days. Well, let's put that in there. I'll probably find out that this is somewhere else when I do the next explication. As I told you, I'm going to post this in the channel under the 910 playlist, and then I'm going to wait to see if anybody finds it worthwhile. You know, I don't know how many 910s are out there and are on the channel. If I get enough, I'll continue on. But you know, that's kind of what my plan is. Let's see. What anything other else we want to do on this first installment of our explication? Yeah. How about special inactives, particularly very current for reservists called to active duty. By the way, if you don't get your continuing ed, then we can't pay you commissions. We can pay you commissions that you earned before you entered to, you know, became late on the continuing ed. Special inactive for reservists called to active duty. So we're going to put their registration in this special category. Now that's the least we can do for that. We're going to waive the CE requirements for them while they're on active duty. And when they come back within 90 days, they got to tell us what they want to do. And, you know, if they have an epiphany or not. And if they don't, you know, within 90 days, tell us they're coming back to work and, you know, back to the broker dealer, then we'll start that clock on the 2 years. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good down payment on 1.1 verified qualifications of new associated persons. I'm just shocking that. And that will be 1.2 is when we come back for the next installment. Oh, it looks like I got some of that already done. So next installment, if you find this productive, we'll continue on. And it looks like the next thing on our agenda will be things like selling away, Rule G37. I'm just looking what's next, outside business activities. Okay, like, share, comment. I'm pretty good at returning comments and questions you may have, and we'll see how this goes for our new playlist for 9 and 10.